Iowa Hawkeyes started to inspire confidence in some by means of their big win against Northwestern this past weekend, but they have an opportunity to inspire confidence in a large swath of fans. That is, if they can go on the road and produce similar results against the Purdue Boilermakers, a team Iowa has struggled with in recent seasons. My official Iowa Purdue preview coming up. First, I want to thank Iowa Floor Covering. Definitely give this company a look. If you need flooring, perhaps you're going through a remodel, check out iowafloorcovering.com/DIY. They've got tough core click together 4.5 millimeter waterproof vinyl flooring selling at just $269 per foot with self-installation. Better than you'll find at any box store. Again, iowafloorcovering.com/DIY, located in the Metro down in Bondurant. And Ascent Nutrition, great coffee. Had another cup this morning. It's mold and mycotoxin free. It'll perk you up in the morning. And this mold and mycotoxin free coffee, it's actually being featured here in about a week on a couple of different networks. Fox Business will be featuring this coffee, CNN, PBS. This stuff is taking the world by storm. Visit goascentnutrition.com and use that code Hawkeyes to receive 15% off your order, courtesy of Ascent Nutrition and from the Hawkeye of the Storm. So the Hawkeyes, speaking of the Hawks, they'll go on the road to Purdue on Saturday. Early kickoff. We speculated on this one. We got a late announcement this past Saturday on the official start time. It will be a noon Eastern kick on FS1. Game is sold out. Purdue certainly in the running for a West Division championship. Who would have thought that it would be Illinois and Purdue battling it out? Certainly Minnesota's not out of the picture, and technically Wisconsin and Iowa, they are still in the picture as well. And I think Nebraska technically is not even eliminated yet. But Purdue and Illinois seem to be the front runners. So this is a huge game for Purdue. And let me just say this right now. There is more pressure on Purdue to perform in this game than there is Iowa. Yes, Kirk Ferentz has pressure. Yes, Iowa fans need to see something to inspire confidence in this offense, in Kirk Ferentz, and certainly in Brian Ferentz. But we've seen a number of results that have looked almost identical, right? Basically, every one of Iowa's losses, the 10-7 loss to Iowa State, the 9-6 loss to Illinois, they basically have all looked the same. You have a couple of explosive offenses in there with Michigan and Ohio State that drove those numbers up. But basically, Iowa's offense has failed to produce. So Iowa fans will not be shocked if they go into West Lafayette this Saturday and fail to produce. Kind of playing with house money, right? Charlie Jones, the transfer to Purdue, he's not playing in Kinnick, so there won't be the booze showering down on him like there would be if he was playing in Iowa City. But he's got some pressure to live up to his wide receiver one status. He's regarded as one of the best receivers in the country and in the Big Ten, certainly, following his transfer. But he's going up against an Iowa defense that prides itself on not giving up big plays. Tyrone Tracy's a Indiana kid who transferred back home as well. Hasn't been great this year, but perhaps he could have a coming out party against his former team. Lots of storylines. Bottom line is Purdue has more pressure to win this game than Iowa. But I want to run through a few statistics here in the next few minutes that will maybe surprise you, but if you're following this close enough, they probably don't surprise you, but they are fascinating as an Iowa fan to look at. Now, Jeff Brom started coaching at Purdue in 2017, and since he started coaching the Purdue Boilermakers, they have had one receiver total over 100 yards in every game against the Hawkeyes. And to put that in perspective, because they've been a division team, an intra-division team for the Hawkeyes, they've played Iowa every single year. Yes, that's 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. No wide receivers get over 100 yards against Iowa, or at least it didn't seem to be the case. But yet Purdue has figured out a way to do that against Phil Parker's bend, don't break secondary. Let's go to 2017. Who was it in 17? Anthony Mahungu. Iowa deploying 3 cornerbacks against Mahungu. And Mahungu, they're just hitting Mahungu back to back to back along that left sideline. I remember that game vividly going into the south end zone. And Iowa loses that game 24-15. Had a comeback late and fell short. Missed a 2-point conversion. Not sure why they went for 2 in that situation. Should have probably kicked the extra point and then kicked the onside kick. But nevertheless, Anthony Mahungu with 7 catches for $135 and 2 touchdowns. None of the Iowa cornerbacks could defend Mahungu on this day, and Iowa loses at home. 2018, another loss for the Hawkeyes a young secondary, including a young Riley Moss who competed in this game. Terry Wright, though, goes off for 146 yards on 6 catches, 3 touchdowns. They continue to hit Iowa over the top. This is when Iowa had a very competent offense, though, with Nate Stanley, Noah Fant, TJ Hawkinson. They hung in there, but just not enough. Iowa falls on the road at Purdue, 38-36. How about 2019? A win for the Hawkeyes, a narrow win, but it was a win. Good day for Brandon Smith on this day. Smith ended up going for 106 yards himself, but the Hawkeyes had to overcome 197 yards off 13 catches for a touchdown from David Bell. Yes, 13 catches, $197, and a touchdown. 2020, the season opener in the COVID year, Iowa falling on the road in another narrow loss to Purdue, 24-20. And what does David Bell do? Gets another 13 catches for $121, and this time 3 touchdowns. And by the way, Milton Wright had 7 catches for 85 yards in that game as well. Incredible. And then 2021, we all know the storyline in that game. Iowa was number 2 in the country, undefeated, heading into their home contest against Purdue. And George Karlaftis, Aiden O'Connell, Jack Plummer, David Bell, TJ Sheffield, these guys just absolutely obliterated the Hawks 24-7. And it wasn't even as close as the score may cause you to think. David Bell, 11 catches, 240 yards, and a touchdown. That's an average of 22 yards per attempt. Again, 11 catches for 240 yards. So why has Purdue been able to consistently score against Iowa and consistently get one receiver to go off? Well, first of all, Purdue has had exceptional receivers. The one guy we haven't named during that time span was Rondale Moore. Moore never had a big game against the Hawkeyes. I believe he was injured at least in one of those games. But the way Purdue plays football, right, they are going to generate more yards to their wideouts. Iowa plays this bend, don't break style. And Purdue is more than willing to nickel and dime Iowa's secondary to death. But Jeff Brom has this innate ability to put the ball in the right spot on the field. And actually, the Iowa players talked about this during their interviews this week, just about how it seems like Brom has this special skill, this special ability to make the perfect play call based upon what Iowa's playing defensively. And it's also interesting. I'll say this. I know Kirk Ferentz was asked about scheduling this week. How about this for a stat? Purdue heading into this game on Saturday, coming off a bye week. That means an extra week of prep for Jeff Brom and company. 2021, Purdue, once again, coming off a bye week, an extra week of prep for Purdue. Let's go back to 2020. It was a season opener. Tons of extra prep time for Purdue. Now, Iowa had the extra prep time as well, but we're talking specifically about Jeff Brom and his offensive skill set and his offensive mind, which I think is just absolutely incredible. And he is one of the best offensive minds in the country, especially with the passing offense, no question about it. But it's just amazing. These last 3 seasons now, Purdue has had this extra week to prepare for Iowa, or at least extra time if you count that season opener in 2020. And that's not changing this year. How about Charlie Jones? He's kind of become the storyline of this game this year. Iowa typically, again, since Brom has been there, every year they've given up over 100 yards to one receiver on this Purdue roster. And this year, one would think it's going to be Charlie Jones, right? How about the numbers for Charlie this year? Charlie Jones has totaled over 100 yards in 5 games so far this year. In the other games, 59 yards through the air with 2 touchdowns against FAU, 6 catches for 55 yards against Minnesota. Did get held down by Maryland. And if I'm Phil Parker, I'm looking at that tape. How did Maryland hold Charlie Jones to 3 catches for 15 yards? But Charlie Jones has been the epitome of consistent. Now, he hasn't done much in the punt return or kick return game, but boy, they have made him a major factor on offense. Yes, he was underutilized at Iowa. Kirk Ferentz wants to go with the narrative that Charlie was developed in the spring and we'll never get to know what he would have done here. I think we know what he would have done here. He would have performed at a much lower level given the lack of opportunity at Iowa. I think that's pretty much a given, right? We've seen this. We understand that he didn't make some huge jump. And Iowa does not have this reputation of developing wide receivers. They just don't. Whether you want to blame Kelton Copeland, Brian Ferentz, Kirk Ferentz, whatever. But Charlie Jones, I think, has had this ability for a while. We've seen some of the skill set present itself in special teams, and he's finally getting the opportunity to show off his skill set, and what a skill set it is. One more stat to throw at you. I threw this out when we were talking Iowa, Ohio State a few weeks ago. How about the differences? Now, I understand Purdue is a pass-heavy offense. I get it. These are apples to oranges, but this is alarming. It's unbelievable. Spencer Petras, despite the adequate showing against the Wildcats last week, look at his numbers in comparison to Aiden O'Connell's. Petras with 205 pass attempts, 114 completions. O'Connell has thrown the ball 315 times for 209 completions. Petras with just over 1,200 yards. O'Connell with just under 2,300 yards. O'Connell with 15 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. Petras, 3 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. That is a result of a couple of different things. I think most people would say that Aiden O'Connell is just better at this level, right? He's more accurate with the football. He understands how to lead the pocket, even though you wouldn't call him mobile. He is what Iowa would like to have in a pocket passer. It's also a result of the system, right? I mean, he's throwing the ball a lot more. He's got better wideouts around him. He's got a play caller who understands a passing offense like nobody else. So there, again, apples to oranges. Watch out for Maccabee at running back. This kid's come by storm. Really impressive. Nobody really had heard of the kid outside the program heading into this year. He's just short of 600 yards with 6 touchdowns on just over 100 carries on the season. They've got good tight end play. So does Iowa. The bottom line here, folks, for Iowa, and we'll talk about this during my Pick'em segment in the morning, Iowa has to be able to protect Spencer Petras. Petras cannot, and we've seen this. It's just been demonstrated. Petras cannot be consistent through the air unless he's got overwhelming protection. The moment that pocket is pressured, the moment it collapses and he has to make a split-second decision or he's off balance, his fundamentals typically suffer, and the passing offense suffers mightily. Against Northwestern, he experienced almost perfect protection, but it was against Northwestern. I'll give you my pick and ultimate key to victory during the Pick'em segment, which will be released Friday morning. So that's my preview for Iowa Purdue. We'll be live with a post-game show following the game in West Lafayette, which will kick off at 11 a.m. Central Time on FS1.